And we're back for our daily college basketball best bets here on Sunday, January 11th. Yesterday, another 3-2 day. I mean, we just keep hammering these 3-2 days every single day. Hey, positive momentum is positive momentum. We don't get the two early games yesterday. Our early day struggles continue, but we did find a way to get back to above 500 on the day. Western Michigan goes out and beats EMU. The Eagles forget how to play basketball in the second half. Montana doesn't score, I'm not joking, a single point in the last 4 minutes against 2-13 Eastern Washington, so they find a way to lose the game. EWU closes well. They finish the game on like an 11-0 run or 8-0 run, so Montana loses the game on the road to the worst team in the conference. Perfect. That's one way to go. Clemson beats up on Notre Dame. Perfect there. Utah State beats Boise State. That game was never competitive. Utah State got out to a 10-0 lead, never gave it back. And then to close the night, UC Irvine does cover the points against Hawaii. Now, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I took UC Irvine money line as well. I got overzealous. I was feeling it after Utah State won, after the Chicago Bears came back and beat the Green Bay Packers. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go money line now on UCI. Oh man. We got walked off by Hawaii. I'm telling you, the weirdest possible stuff goes on, and it's always in the favor of the Rainbow Warriors in Hawaii. I want a federal investigation into Hawaii Rainbow Warriors basketball, not just the game-winning shot, but I mean every role. I'm telling you, the rims are crooked for opposing teams in Hawaii, and teams just all of a sudden play stupid once they get to Honolulu. Irvine did enough to win the game. Let's not talk about by the way, that UCI was getting hacked every single time they drive against Hawaii. Completely hacked on the wrist every single time. Refs swallow their whistles. Ridiculous stuff. Every basketball game ever is rigged in favor of the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors in Honolulu, yet and we still keep betting against it. But UCI covered, so it's all that matters. We go 3-2 yesterday, looking for more positive momentum here today. Folks, before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more college basketball best bets here on the channel. Later today, we're going to have our NBA best bets, so go make sure to check that out as well. Also on the channel, our NFL predictions and best bets. We're 2 for 2 so far on the NFL wildcard round. We had Panthers covering against the Rams. We had Bears to beat the Green Bay Packers. 2 for 2, looking for potentially 5 for 5 after today's end. My pick to win the Super Bowl plays today, so hopefully they pull out a big victory at home. Go check out the NFL predictions if you want to see again who I think is currently winning the Super Bowl. No, we're full on this team to win the entire thing. Also on Greedo Plays MMA, our futures for 2026 predictions on the channel on Greedo Plays MMA. Make sure to go join us over there. Predictions coming back weekly very shortly to that channel. Okay, on to the first now of our 5 best bets here on January 11th. I feel like my background's just nothing now without the Christmas tree. But regardless, on to our first of 5 bets. Let's kick things off in the American Conference. We're actually going to do 2 American Conference games to start the video. I'm taking the Memphis Tigers to go on the road in Boca Raton and beat the Florida Atlantic Owls. I'm not going to be fooled by the fact the game's at FAU. I'm not going to be fooled by the fact, FAU's 2-1 in the American. Their only loss is at Tulane. I don't care. Memphis has too much talent. Now, I will say this. The last time I picked a game with, this in mind, or I guess with this rationale, was yesterday in the Big Sky Conference. Montana, best team in the conference, goes on the road, takes on a bad team. And I know, again, FAU's a lot better in the American Conference in comparison to what Eastern Washington is in the Big Sky, but stay with me now. We took Montana to go on the road and win. They don't. I'm going to do it again, obviously now in the form of the American Conference, but here's the difference. The talent on Memphis is still, it's still greater than whatever the hell Montana has compared to the rest of the Big Sky. Like, there's a difference in the best team in the American Conference and the best team in the Big Sky. I understand it. Memphis has a 500 record this season. They are 2-0, though, in American League play, and when you really look at their entire schedule, Memphis obviously plays a Power 5 non-con schedule. Their entire non-con schedule, with the exception of a couple bye games, are Power 5 opponents and high-level mid-major opponents. So take that with a grain of salt when you consider Memphis. Obviously, they're looking for Tier 1 and Tier 2 wins, their non-conference schedule, because they are expected to obviously go through the American and likely win the American year in and year out. The toughest competition for them this year in the American, I would say, is Tulane, Temple, South Florida, and Florida Atlantic. Those are the 4 other best teams in the American. I would still argue Memphis is number 1. Gotta think so. I mean, this was a Memphis team I know lot has changed for Memphis going into the season, but this was a team that was the 5 seed in the tournament last year, did lose in the first round to the Mountain West tournament champions in Colorado State, and obviously team is very different. PJ Haggerty's now at Kansas State. I understand. Again, they lost their main guys. Danjia is also, I think, in the G League somewhere, so I get it. They've lost a lot of players from last season. However, there is still talent on Memphis. They reload, and they do bring back a lot of players at the same exact time. I'm okay going with the Tigers here. Tyrese Hunter, by the way, as well, who averaged double digits last season, averaged 14. No longer, obviously, with Memphis. He has since graduated. There is still too much talent on Memphis to lose this basketball game. This is a team last year that went 16-2 in the American Conference. Their only losses were at Temple and at Wichita State. Take that how you want. This is a difficult road game. I'm not going to deny that. FAU has been a good team in Boca Raton so far this season. If you remember the first best bet video we made of the year, the thumbnail was Florida Atlantic versus Boston College, and FAU won in overtime against the ACC's Boston College. Since then, though, they've played all right basketball. I'll say their non-con schedule was just okay in terms of who they beat. They beat Boston College, beat Charleston, lose on the road to Liberty, who continues to dominate the Conference USA. Big victory for them yesterday over the Sam Houston Bearcats. I should have taken it, thought about it, but I didn't. Regardless, FAU gets blown out at Liberty. They beat Pacific. They beat Loyola Marymount, lose to George Mason, lose at home to St. Bonaventure, win at FGCU, beat U Albany, then go to Moraga and lose to St. Mary's. They go to Central Florida and lose to UCF. They win at home against UTSA expectedly. They win the game by 40 points. And then a loss to Tulane, and then most recently a win on the road in Birmingham, obviously against the UAB Blazers. It's just different, though, when you play Memphis. Memphis is just a whole nother level. We talked about their difficult non-conference schedule and the fact that they play essentially a Power 5 non-con schedule. It's absolutely true. I mean, just listen to the teams that they play. San Francisco's a high-level mid-major. Again, WCC is a mid-major conference. Obviously, St. Mary's and Gonzaga aren't mid-major schools, but San Francisco is. Memphis goes to Ole Miss, loses the game by 6 points. I understand Ole Miss is a bottom-of-the-barrel SEC team, but if you look at what Ole Miss did yesterday, winning at home against Missouri with Malik Dia and company, good win for those guys. Anyways, Memphis loses to Ole Miss. The UNLV loss sucks, but it is what it is. It happens, I guess. The Purdue loss by 9 points. Losing to Wake Forest by 1. Victories over some mid-majors in Southern Illinois and New Orleans. A win at home against Baylor. Lost to Louisville. It's going to happen. Overtime L to Vanderbilt. Win. They lost Mississippi State. Lost to Mississippi State, close game, and then 3 straight victories over Alabama State, North Texas, and Rice. Again, the North Texas and Rice victories, both obviously to kick off American play. The Rice game just going on the road and doing that in Texas. 8 days off in between playing the Owls and the Owls. And now here you go, they get FAU. FAU most recently just played on Wednesday. Again, Memphis last played on Saturday, June 3rd. So again, 8 days off going into this one for the Memphis Tigers. The way I look at this, I just think there is too much talent on Memphis to lose this basketball game personally. I think they are the better team in terms of talent. I don't think going on the road is going to play that big of a factor. I know, again, FAU, for the most part, that student population shows up. But I think Penny Hardaway's team does win the basketball game. Again, talent. It's a talent-driven conference. And Doug McDaniel is probably the best player on the court. I would think he is. Is Vanterpool, either Vanterpool or Doug McDaniel, I'm not sure. But Doug McDaniel, 5'11" point guard, averages 15 points per game, just put up 18 in the Rice outing. Vanterpool is the best player for Florida Atlantic in his sophomore season. He's averaging 16.5. Fully now in a starting role for the Owls, just dropped 19 in the Alabama-Birmingham game. FAU also has Cannon Carlisle, who averages 15 points per game. That's a junior guard for them, just put up 25 against UAB. This is a player who played at Stanford, then was at IU last season, and then was at Florida, obviously now at Florida Atlantic, is Carlisle. Didn't do much for the Hoosiers last season. Started in some games with some injuries, but didn't do much. Regardless of all that, though, where Memphis should win this game, in my opinion, is defensively. They should be able to shut down a lot of what FAU wants to do. I will tell you, right, the Owls are the better straight scoring team. I think all around talent-wise, Memphis is the better squad. And I'm telling you, again, once we get into American League play, it just changes. Memphis does turn back into that team they're supposed to be, and there's a reason their non-con schedule is so difficult, because they, again, expect results and expect winning once they get to conference play. So I got to go with Memphis here on the road. I understand the game's in Boca Raton, but I think this is tremendous value for the Memphis Tigers. We get them at plus money. We get them at plus 115. I'm going to absolutely take it. Give me Memphis and Penny Hardaway's team to go on the road and pick up their 3rd consecutive victory in American League play. They kick off the year 4-7, hopefully now at 8-7 with the victory on the road in Boca Raton. On now to our second best bet of the video. Again, sticking in the American Conference. Let's go to Houston, Texas for the Rice Owls and the Charlotte 49ers, -110 on both sides. And I am taking the Rice Owls. I'm going to go with the Rice at home. I think this is a good spot for the Owls here. Obviously, we just talked about them in the FAU game, obviously against Memphis. I'm going to go with Rice. They're at home. I think these teams are fairly even. I don't really see it. Charlotte just being the straight up better team. I know in all the net rankings, Charlotte is supposed to be better than Rice. I don't know. I know Rice's non-con wasn't very good. I look at their last game against Wichita, and that's a gutsy effort. You win a low-scoring defensive battle, and that's how Rice is going to win, and that's a major factor in this game, too. Whoever plays their style of game is going to win, regardless if that's the high-scoring nature out of the 49ers or a low-scoring defensive battle from the Owls. Whoever gets to play their game right is going to win. We're going to talk about the low-scoring games Charlotte has played this season, and they haven't come out on top with. If Rice plays this game how they want to play it, they should be able to get the victory. Them being at home gives me a lot of confidence in them being able to get this done. Obviously, you got the 49ers coming on over from North Carolina. Rice at home in this spot. The Owls, so far this year, 1-2 in the American Conference with their last game and a win over in Wichita. They shocked the Shockers. Nope, nobody? Okay. Big come-from-behind victory, though. Not really. They were beating them up for the second half, but they were down early in that game. Upset victory for Rice on the road at Wichita State. Huge one to get because you kick off your American League play 0-2, get completely just trampled by the Tulsa Golden Hurricane, losing the game 97-48, then playing a much more competitive outing against Memphis, and that's what I like. The fact, I know you're not going to beat Memphis, and they didn't beat Memphis, that's okay. The fact that they held that team, I didn't hold them, but the fact that they kept that team to a competitive game, only lost by 6, and that's their only home game so far in conference play, I'm okay with that. And we'll also, again, we'll get to all of Rice's games at home this season. They've played fairly well recently. I know throughout the entire course of the year, they've just been at home. But, and there's a specific game I'm thinking about. But for the most part, I have confidence in this team at home to get it done. I'm looking at the Charlotte 49ers. Again, the way whoever gets to play this game the way they want to play it should win. Whether that be a low-scoring outing and a gritty defensive battle that the Rice Owls can usually win, or a high-scoring game from Charlotte, whoever dictates the pace is going to win the basketball game. Normally when we have these conversations about, okay, these teams being virtually even, and it's just whose game gets played, I'm going to take the team at home. I'm going to take the team at home. I'm going to take the team that has played well at home against a Charlotte team that is coming off back-to-back victories and a win at UTSA. But here's the thing, guys. My local high school team might be able to beat the Roadrunners right now. The Roadrunners are atrocious. They're 4-12, and I think all but 2 wins. Yeah, half their victories this year are against Division II teams. So I don't care if you beat the Roadrunners. This isn't football and Owen McCown. This is collegiate basketball. Beating UTSA has no weight for me right now. So Charlotte's victory on the road, it is what it is. That's great. I mean, against UTSA, though, now you got to go to Rice, and we look at the games Charlotte has played this season that have been low scoring. They usually don't come out of them. Game at Charleston, they lose 74-67. A Richmond Spiders game, they lose by 5. Illinois State, they lose by 10. App State, low-scoring game, 65-63. They lose by 2. Davidson, out of the A-10, beats Charlotte 62-55. A lot of their victories are high-scoring games. They scored 92 points against the Indiana State Sycamores. They beat Wichita 104-100, which, again, is a crazy difference, obviously, from Charlotte's game against Wichita and Rice's game against Wichita. Charlotte goes at home in North Carolina, beats Wichita by 4 points. Rice goes to Wichita, wins a 66-64 game against Charlotte's games in the 100s. Rice wins the game by 2 points on the road in Wichita, Kansas, 66-64. Rice at home has been a big factor, I think, or is a big factor in this game. Again, a competitive outing against Memphis. They're not expected to win, but holding that Memphis team tight, I'm okay with that. Beating Arkansas State at home, winning a gritty game 77-76, beating Texas State at home 77-72. The one I don't like is the Tarleton State loss, and the fact Tarleton came in there and beat them by 16, and Stephen F. Austin, 2 teams that have like the same logo, but just different lettering, obviously, with the T and then the SFA. They're both from Texas. Regardless, those 2 losses aren't great, losing by 16 to Tarleton at home and Stephen F. Austin at home by 12 points, but those come back in November. Okay, post-November, this team has been fairly perfect at home. I know they have their fair share of bad road games. Tulsa lost by 50 points, going to Malibu and losing to Pepperdine by 22 points, going to Florida Gulf Coast, taking the Seagulls into overtime. Eagles, why I call them the Seagulls? Their logo looks like a seagull. Taking the Eagles into overtime and yet losing the game to FGCU by 15 points. Again, though, Rice at home has been solid. Don't forget they played Oregon to a competitive game, only lost by 4 to the Ducks. But you know what? Early season Oregon, everybody was playing them tight. Leading scorer for the Owls is Trey Bordeaux. Bordeaux averages 14 points per game. This is an experienced collegiate player. He's averaged double digits now in 4 straight years in college basketball. Started with the Navy, found a way to leave the Navy, then went to SC Upstate for 2 years, averaged double digits. Now at Rice for back-to-back seasons, again, a double-digit score. For the Owls, Nick Anderson averages 13.5 for Rice alongside Jalen Smith, who's averaging 12. Anderson in his senior year averaged 18 last year for Prairie View A&M over in the SWAC. Jalen Smith, a former Southern Methodist guard, finally getting some run and some big-time run with Rice since I'm pretty sure got benched last year over for the Mustangs. As for Charlotte, again, they want to turn this into a track meet. I don't believe they're going to be able to do so. Guys to watch out for are Ben Bradford, who's a sophomore, is averaging 13.5 points, and then their center is pretty solid too. And Anton Bonke, averaging 12 and 9. He's been pretty dominant so far in American League play. That is the big factor, I think, for Rice in this one, if they're able to hold the big for Charlotte. I don't know whose assignment that's going to be for Rice. I assume they're going to double. Because I don't know if there's just a straight-up center who can match up. It might be Steven Giwa, who is a 6'9 senior center from Houston, who does get some run, a Corpus Christi A&M transfer. That's probably the matchup we're going to get. There's going to be a lot on his plate tonight. But I'm going to take Rice at home. Again, I expect a low-scoring, gritty game, and if it's played like that, I think Rice comes out on top. Give me the Owls at home, -110 with a huge American League victory, American Conference victory over the Charlotte 49ers. On now to our third best bet of the video. Same hour, 11 o'clock. Manhattan versus the Niagara Purple Eagles. We're going to continue to fade Niagara, so give me Manhattan. An all New York matchup with the Jaspers and the Purple Eagles. Again, we went over this last video. What the hell is a Purple Eagle? I don't know. It doesn't exist. It's just made up for Niagara's mascot. But we faded Niagara a couple days ago over in New Rochelle against Iona, and we had Iona to cover. I think it was 9.5 or 10.5 points. Regardless, the Gales ended up winning the game by 18 points against the Purple Eagles. Now I'm going to look towards Manhattan to get a victory here. I know the Jaspers have dropped back-to-back games, but this, when you watch both of these teams, and I, for some reason, have watched quite a bit of Manhattan Jaspers basketball this season. Why? Don't ask. But, well, actually, these videos are the reason. So actually, do ask. Stylistically, this matchup is very great for Manhattan. Because in most of the games that they lose, they just get not outmatched, but they just get outsized. And they want to run the entire game, but they don't have a really great center. They have no interior presence, and they just want to run all game long. But decent scoring teams will be able to go out and beat the Jaspers. The Purple Eagles don't really have like a really solid big, I'll say. You know, Justin Hawkins is their closest to that, but Hawkins I think he's like 6'5". His height's not listed. He's not that big of a big for Niagara, and the Purple Eagles don't really have a traditional center, which is the complete matchup Manhattan wants to play. Like, that is their dream scenario, playing a team with no interior presence on either side of the ball, but a team that, again, is not going to pound the paint against them, because Manhattan defensively is not very good. Anthony Isaac's going to be really their only guy who can hold you in the paint. He essentially plays their centerish role, but he's not a center at all, but he's just the biggest guy in the court, because Manhattan plays essentially positionless basketball. They throw out a bunch of guards in the court. Two guys to watch are always Jaden Winston and Devin Dinkins, two very undersized guards for the Jaspers, as Jaden Winston, I've been over this quite a bit, but Jaden Winston's listed at 6 feet tall. Dinkins is listed at 5'10". When I watch the Hawaii broadcast, the Hawaii commentators are really the only commentators that ever talk about this, because they don't really bring this up in the Metro Atlantic, I guess. But the Hawaii commentators, who, again, I hate the Rainbow Warriors basketball team, but it is what it is. The broadcast brought up that Jaden Winston, they think, is likely around 5'10", and Devin Dinkins is about 5'8". Like, that was their guess, that Manhattan added 2 inches of height onto both those guys. And when you compare them and we just look at those guys compared to the other guys on the court, especially in that Hawaii game earlier this season, yeah, I see it. So, like, these are smaller guys, yet they find ways to score. And again, that's why they're good against teams who don't have an interior presence. They can just, at least offensively, teams that don't have an interior presence, because what Manhattan wants to do all game long, these guys are not afraid to drive. So again, defensively that works out too for teams that don't have bigs, but at the same time, they're just going to try to shoot over you all game long. They're going to take faders to try to get separation. They're going to shoot the ball from the perimeter. Dinkin and Winston are going to play the entire game. They both will play 40 a night. Anthony Isaac's going to play as much as he possibly can. Roxburgh's going to play as much as he possibly can as well. It's a very short rotation. Max 7 guys are going to play, potentially maybe 8, but really a 7-man rotation for Manhattan. And this is the type of game, though, where they will be allowed to run all night long, because I don't think the Purple Eagles can hold them. I'm looking at Niagara. We just picked against them the other day. There was reason to that. We did not think they were going to be able to keep up with the scoring of Iona. They couldn't. The Gales beat them 71-53. They now continue their New York road trip, even though they're from New York too, but that's neither here or there. They're going to go to Manhattan, and I think the Jaspers are able to put up a bunch of points in them as well. I'd argue there's a slight chance this is actually a higher, like in terms of, I think Manhattan might be able to score more than Iona. Iona only scored 71. They did shut down Niagara on the other side of the ball, and that's another thing. The Eagles don't score points. Manhattan should be running all game long. They're a team where even if you do score, they're going to get back out. They're going to make every possession, for the most part, feel like a transition possession, and they're going to go out and run against you. So again, Niagara continues their New York road trip. New Rochelle over to Manhattan today. They'll go over to Buffalo when they play Canisius on Wednesday. I assume they're going to go back to Niagara Falls first. I wouldn't want to be in Buffalo, but it's okay. Go Jags today, eh? Anyways, I think Manhattan just blows this team out of the water. Again, when I look at Niagara, you don't have really any interior presence. Justin Page is your best player, 6'5" guard on this team, averages 13 points per game, just put up 15 in their last out against the Gales. That's great. Justin Hawkins, again, is their closest thing to a big. They don't really have a traditional center. I guess they do have one off the bench. That's going to be Kabiya Tishibangu. That's my pronunciation of his name. I think that's right. He plays like 14 minutes per night. He is a backup center who does play, but he does not start, and that's not, again, a guy that you're going to feed to score. You know, Kieba only averages 3 points per game and 1.5 rebounds per game. So not a reliable big that Niagara has. This is a very good spot for the Jaspers, guys. Trust me, this is a really good spot for them here. I understand, again, having the Jaspers or asking the Jaspers to cover 6.5 against anybody is a little bit tricky. The way they play and stylistically, this matchup favors them heavily. They are coming off back-to-back L's, losing at Merrimack 73-66, losing at home against Canisius 70-64. Prior to that, though, 3 wins over Presbyterian, Ryder, and Quinnipiac, beating the Blue Hose by 6 points, beating Ryder on the road by 3 points, good win over the Bronx, and then beating Quinnipiac. I know the Bronx aren't very good, but we had Manhattan there, and then beating Quinnipiac by 1 point as well. Again, the 2 guys to watch, Winston and Dinkins. Watch out for Roxburgh as well. Fraser Roxburgh, sophomore out of Australia. He can score some as well. He'll have big nights. And watch out for their bigs as well. I guess Manhattan's one big, but they don't have any stop for guys who are going to drive against them. But I'm not really too concerned about Niagara scoring on anybody. Again, Anthony Isaac is that one big that the Jaspers have. Again, nowhere near to a traditional center, but that's neither here or there. Absolutely, give me the Manhattan Jaspers in the spot. I think they're the much better squad, and we just saw the Purple Eagles get decimated the other night at Iona. I would expect more of the same here on the road or continuously on the road for Niagara over in Manhattan against the Jaspers. Move on now to our 4th best bet of the video. Going now to the Big 12 as we go to Orlando, Florida for the Cincinnati Bearcats and the Central Florida Knights, a former American League or American Conference matchup, obviously American Athletic Conference matchup between the Bearcats and the Knights. Give me UCF at home -3. I think it's a really good line, honestly, for UCF. The 25th ranked team in the country coming off of a loss to Oklahoma State in Stillwater. I understand. Guys, on the road in the Big 12 can get difficult sometimes. This is a UCF team that is 1-1 in conference play with the victory over Kansas. Obviously, the Jayhawks yesterday losing in Morgantown to the Mountaineers. But regardless, UCF still ranked for now, 12-2, my goodness, and a 1-1 so far in Big 12 play. As for the Bearcats, 0-2 in Big 12 play. What we thought this year might be a little difficult for the Bearcats, at least scoring-wise, and I understand they played a really good defensive team in their first game in the Houston Cougars, and then they proceeded to lose a competitive game to WVU in their last outing. That game was in Morgantown as well, but Cincinnati is 0-2 so far in Big 12 play. This is a team that did not impress anybody in non-con play so far this year. I mean, or at all this year. Their only decent non-conference win was Dayton. Lost to Louisville, lost to Xavier, lost to Eastern Michigan. That went well for us yesterday. Lost to, again, Xavier in that Cincinnati versus Cincinnati matchup. Georgia L, Clemson L, loss after loss after loss after loss for Cincinnati in non-con play. I don't think they get over the hump against Central Florida. I really don't think so. I mean, this is a team, right, that brought back Jizzle James and that weird turn of events. But James has been back, and he's played all right. Day Thomas and Baba Miller are the 2 leading scorers for this team. Day Thomas averaging 13 per game. Miller averaging 13 and 11. He's been big for this team this year, but ultimately it hasn't been enough for the Bearcats to get over the hump this season. And I don't think going on the road to Central Florida is going to fix any of their problems. I mean, sure, they were given a tough start to conference play. It's a somewhat competitive game at times against Houston, I'll give you that. And then a close game over at WVU. I think they're going to really struggle at UCF. I believe so. It's a UCF team, again, that's trying to still adjust. I think they're fully locked in, but a team that did lose quite a bit of talent last season. This is a team that actually, hey, did finish as the runners-up last year in the college basketball crown. Remember that? Is that coming back this year? I have a feeling it's going to. This is a team that lost, all their best players last year. Darius Johnson and Jordan Ivy Curry both graduated. Keyshawn Hall, obviously standout player for Auburn. He just dropped 32 points in back-to-back games against A&M and Arkansas over in the Southeastern Conference. But Central Florida has played well despite those losses to the lineup. This is a team, again, that is 12-2 so far this season. Riley Kugel's been big, averaging 14 points per game. Fulks is averaging 14 as well, but Kugel coming off of an all right run in the SEC. Played 2 years at Florida, averaged 10 points per game in both seasons, averaged 9 last year over at Mississippi State. Has come on over to Central Florida. He's been a very reliable hand for this team, alongside Thamus Fulks, who did have back-to-back 20-point performances against other Florida schools in Gulf Coast and Florida Atlantic. But Fulks has been good this year, averaging 13.5 points per game. This is a player who has traveled everywhere for college basketball, started his collegiate career at South Carolina State, then went to the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana, played 2 years there, then was in the Horizon League last year playing for the Milwaukee Panthers, and now obviously has settled for Central Florida in what I believe is his last year of college basketball. You never know these days. Jordan Burks has also played good basketball this year too. Jamichael Stillwell too. I mean, they've got some scorers, man. Burks averaging 13 points per game. He was non-existent in the game against Oklahoma State, but again, another very experienced player. It's an older Central Florida team. Burks played a year at Kentucky, played a year at Georgetown, now here with the Knights. And then Jamichael Stillwell, another senior player, played last year at Milwaukee, averaging 12 points per game and 8 rebounds per game for Central Florida. Again, talent is a big decision or big deciding factor in a lot of these games, and that's the exact course of action I'm taking on this one. The talent level is levels better on this side of Central Florida. Completely. There's just too much talent on Central Florida for Cincinnati to keep up with them. I believe this is going to be a double-digit win for UCF. I think so. They're at home, and that's going to make a huge difference. I don't think Cincinnati is going to travel well after, almost getting there against Houston, almost going on the road and overcoming West Virginia. Now you're still on the road. You're going to Orlando. I think they're going to lay an egg in this spot, personally. I mean, yes, UCF is coming off an L to Oklahoma State. That's a tough game. Going to Stillwater and playing is not an easy matchup. They lose the game by 11 points. Perfect bounce back opportunity for Central Florida, and honestly, a perfect buy low spot potentially for the Central Florida Knights as well. This is a team that just a couple weeks ago, or just last week, did beat Kansas on their own home court by 6 points. Now they get Cincinnati, and they're only a 3-point favorite. They beat FAU at home by 5. The rest of their non-con schedule, not the most difficult. They played a couple of SEC teams. They lost at home to Vandy by 12 points. They did go to A&M and win by 12, but the other non-con opponents, nothing to really write home about except for a Pittsburgh win. Pittsburgh, very up and down team. I mean, I do like VMI as well, but Pittsburgh, lost to Syracuse yesterday at home. Even odds, they got embarrassed at home. So, I don't know. The Panthers might be the worst team in the ACC. I don't know. Regardless, I like Central Florida at home to win the basketball game. Just too much talent on this team to lose. And we just went over again. Every big-time game Cincinnati's played this season, they have taken an L in. I guess you could say Dayton's a big-time game that they won, but comparatively speaking to Louisville, Clemson, Houston, WVU, I mean, I know Dayton has their good wins this year, but still, Cincinnati has not won a big game this season. They've got the whole thing again with Jizzle James coming back. And again, Day Thomas and Baba Miller have been big this season. Personally, though, I just think there's way more talent on the side of Central Florida. I think Central Florida, for starters, is the better basketball team. I think it's a perfect buy low spot for them because of their L in Stillwater against Oklahoma State. And on top of all of that, they're the team at home here. Crowd should be bumping, I would assume, in Orlando. I'm going to take Central Florida at home to win the basketball game. We're going to take the Knights to cover 3. I'm seeing 3.5 on some sites, but I am seeing 3 as well, so that's the official play. -3 for Central Florida. We haven't pushed all year long on anything, but I'm going to go Central Florida at home, -3 against the Cincinnati Bearcats. On to our final best bet of the video. See, I don't look out. You'll see the bet. I don't specifically hunt Washington Huskies basketball games just to fade them. It just happens to be the case quite a bit. And I'm doing it again. I'm not I don't, look at UW's schedule all the time and say, okay, I'm going to pick against them here and here and here. No, it just happens. Why wouldn't I take Ohio State here? Ohio State is getting 2.5 points on the road in Seattle. Yes, please. Absolutely. 100% give me Ohio State here. Ohio State has played fairly great basketball so far this year. 11-4, 2 losses in the Big Ten. Okay, a loss to Illinois at home. All right, not horrible. Nebraska still undefeated. How about the Huskers yesterday in Bloomington? Obviously, again, we're a football school now in Bloomington, so yes, we are concerned about what's going on in Assembly Hall, but it is what it is. Nebraska's undefeated. I don't really care. So Nebraska goes to Columbus and wins. They go to Bloomington and win. Anyways, Ohio State's 2 L's in the Big Ten are Illinois at home. That's a good team. They're playing Iowa today in Iowa City. I completely stayed away from that. And then Ohio State lost to Nebraska, who's still undefeated. Ohio State was favored to win. Nebraska comes back ultimately and wins the basketball game. Now, again, we talk about travel, and obviously geographical locations are huge, especially in a conference as big as the Big Ten, like the ACC too. But what is pretty set up in both the Big Ten and the ACC are the West Coast trips. Obviously, in the ACC, you're talking about Cal and Stanford having to go back and forth, but ultimately those teams on the Atlantic coast having to go over to the Pacific coast to take on Stanford and California. You're in the Big Ten, right? You got the Pacific Northwest teams in Oregon and UW, and then obviously in California as well, you've got USC and UCLA. So either you go on to play those two, the two LA schools, or you go play the two Pacific Northwest schools. Ohio State's playing the two Pacific Northwest teams in Oregon and Washington. Actually, so just schedule works out. They're playing UCLA next, but that game is in Columbus as the Bruins are going to them. Anyways, Ohio State's on this road trip. Now, if they're, when travel really makes a difference, it's the first game of the road trip, in my opinion. I really believe it is. It's the first game of the road trip because, a team's scrambling to get out there. Ohio State played on Monday night against Nebraska at home in Columbus, and now they got to get all the way to Eugene, play a game on, basically, they got to travel, play the game the next day against Oregon. You don't know how that game's going to go. Ohio State did beat the Ducks. Okay, they did go out and beat the Ducks most recently, and now they get UW on the road. They have already locked into the West Coast time, the Pacific time zone. They have been in the Pacific Northwest for quite a bit, and just on top of that, that momentum booster of having to go on the road the only time you're going to come to the West Coast until potentially they're not going to end up in the West Coast. They're not going to go to the Final Four or the Elite Eight. They're going to be, they're going to stay on the East Coast and the Midwest for the rest of the season unless they end up in the college basketball crown in Vegas, right? For the most part, I can almost guarantee you, Ohio State's not coming back out to California again. Probably not. Or, sorry, the West Coast. Washington's not obviously in California. They're probably not coming back out here. So that momentum booster of getting that one first win, that is the toughest game you're going to play on the road all year long in terms of geographical challenges. Obviously, this team's going to go to Michigan. I know the Wolverines, who have looked unstoppable all year long, yesterday lose. Who would have saw that one coming? Wisconsin gets them. Game wasn't even in Madison. Nope. Game was in Ann Arbor, and that dominant Michigan team takes an L. It is what it is. I mean, I guess Michigan can't be Miami of Ohio. I guess, everyone inspires to be like the Red Hawks. Maybe that's the case. Anyways, Oregon, or Ohio State goes to Oregon and wins. They win by 10 points. I think that Oregon team's so fraudulent. I don't know why I hate always on the two Big Ten Pacific Northwest schools, but I just kind of do. But Ohio State looks really good in the game. They look really good, get off to a hot start, close it out well, win the game by 10 points. Now they're going to go to UW. UW's not good. I keep saying it. UW's not good. They were competitive in their Indiana trip. They went to Assembly Hall, lost by 10 points. They went to Mackey, lost by 8 points. Still, L's are L's. Do not forget, this team lost to Seattle University. I like Braden Maldonado. I like Seattle U. They haven't played very well since the Washington game. Well, the Zaga game was really good, but post that, I guess, whenever Seattle U does not play a team that's not in the state of Washington, they don't really show up, so I don't know what to say there. Regardless, though, UW at home, again, they have a big, obviously big home court advantage here, kind of. Those games are never that packed. Guys, UW is a one-man team, two-man team, kind of. It's obviously Hans Steinbach does literally everything. He averages, what's Steinbach average now? 18 and 12 or 18 and 11. It's absurd. Zoom Diallo does quite a bit for the team as well. It's a team that has been somewhat injured for most of the season as they've been continuing to try to recover from injuries. They've had injuries to both Wesley Yates and Desmond Claude. Yates still injured. Claude has been back for quite a bit at this point, but Yates, I would argue, is their second best player, potentially third best player, depending on where you want to put Zoom Diallo. So losing him obviously is huge. Frank Kepnog, their center from Cameroon. He's like an 8th-year player at this point. 2 years at Oregon, 6th-year player, whatever, same thing. He's their center. He's been pretty decent this season. Plays big minutes, just is out there to play defense. Does pick up some fouls at times. But they have big play, obviously, for UW. So if you're going to beat UW, you need to be at least somewhat decent down low. I'm okay with what Ohio State has. Obviously, the former Santa Clara Bronco, Christoph Tilly, not the former German, he's still German. The German transfers over from Santa Clara over to Ohio State. I've really liked the play so far far this season out of Christoph Tilley going from the WCC over now to the Big Ten. I think he's done a good job this year in his senior season. Devin Royal, obviously doesn't play the same type of big as Christoph Tilley, but Royal's been a really dependable 3 for this team all year long, averages 16 points per game. John Mobley and Bruce Thornton obviously get it done with the guards. Bruce Thornton, man, what a scorer this guy is. Year in and year out, he is that guy for Ohio State. He has started every single game he's played for the Buckeyes since his freshman season, went from averaging 11 points to 16 points to 18 points, now to 20 points this season. That is truly a senior leap that Bruce Thornton continues to take every single year with the Ohio State Buckeyes, and I just think the all-around scoring is going to be too much for Washington to handle, and you have a team that, Ohio State's not just going to lay down and get bullied by Steinbach and Kepnog in this game. I don't believe so. I think Tilley's going to play well enough. I like Amari Bynum off the bench. I think he can play. Bynum does start, excuse me. Amari Bynum's going to play big minutes, depending on the game. He'll start. I think in this matchup, you probably will have him starting. I like the big play out of Ohio State. I don't think they're going to get bullied by those 2 bigs for UW. And it's a Washington team, again, that they don't shoot the basketball. They can't shoot the ball from beyond the perimeter, from the 3-point line. If Ohio State gets running early like they did in Eugene, they should be able to win the basketball game. I got to go with Ohio State on the road. We don't even need them to win, though, technically. We are going to take the 2.5 points. A close game, I want that dependability. If we get like a UCI Hawaii type game, I want the 2.5 points just in case with the Buckeyes. I believe the money line's more than playable as well, though, for Ohio State. If you wanted at plus 125, personally, I'm going to go plus 2.5 for Ohio State on the road in Seattle against Washington. Folks, that'll do it for our college basketball best bets here on January 11th. If you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you did disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back tomorrow for more daily college basketball best bets. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.